Oh, I say if you bite your lip. Oh, oh, oh boy. Welcome back. I had a terrible leg cramp from having my leg pulled. Somebody asked me the other day what I thought about the new 350 Winchester Legend that was just recently announced at the SHOT Show. It's a straight wall cartridge, and it's based on the 223 case, which has been straightened out. There's no shoulder and no neck, and it takes a 357 diameter bullet. Basically, it's a hybrid series of 357 diameter handgun bullets. So I had read a few things about it, and I went online and I checked out the industry specifications for it, Winchester's promotional stuff for it, and ever since the 1800s, you had in the 1800s you had the perpetual motion machine. Everybody was trying to invent a perpetual motion machine, a machine that would basically run, that would run by itself all the time and never stop. That's where you came up with the anniversary clock and things like that. They could keep machines going for a long time by themselves, but eventually, something has to stop. And the thing that we've been doing now for probably for the last 100 years or more is to try to develop ammunition which is the most powerful, has the least recoil, has the greatest penetration, and it's the fastest, all in the same cartridge. That's important, because if you can come up with something that has all those qualities, if it's the fastest, most powerful, has the most energy, and has the least recoil, you've come up with basically the cure for the common cold. So the 350 Legend, apparently they accomplished that. It says here, more energy, less recoil, increased penetration, more powerful than a locomotive, and able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. It does it all. So, boy. I can't help it. The advertising here is a little bit over the top, and the gun writers apparently, Winchester must be handing out some special cigarettes or something for these guys to smoke, because they're basically coming up with some pretty profound information online here. Let's see. Well, before I get into this, let me say, I think the 350 Legend is going to be a great cartridge for certain states that have that requirement for a straight wall cartridge, by law. In order to hunt deer, you got to have Indiana and Ohio. There's certain states which require straight wall cartridges or shotguns only to hunt deer, and it's going to fill the bill for that. There's going to be a certain good market for that particular cartridge. The 350 Legend is straight wall. It's going to have adequate power for deer. And it's going to be terrific for people who don't like to have the kind of recoil that you get in a 444 Marlin or a 450 Bushmaster or something like that. So it's going to be a terrific cartridge for that. But my channel is all about exposing the truth and cutting through the BS. So I think there's a little bit of BS here. Not a little bit, there's a lot. Under the column more energy, and I'm getting this right off of Winchester's own, this is Winchester's own website here. And it makes me feel bad, because Winchester has got a history of, I love their rifles, and the history is all American. They have served our needs well through the years, producing rifles and ammunition that have met the need for particular purposes, and they've done it very, very well with very few problems. They've had a couple of things that didn't sail, but the 350 Legend is claimed to have 903 foot-pounds of energy at 200 yards. Now, I pulled down their own website here. I went online to their ballistics chart, and I wanted to make sure that I was looking at figures which were, consistent with what they had here. So what I did was I pulled down the figures for the 30-30 Winchester. Now, they compare it to the 300 Blackout, which I dismissed anyway. I'm not a 300 Blackout fan. And the 223 Remington, that's a varmint cartridge. That's a military environment cartridge. That's not a deer cartridge. So I dismissed that. But I found this very, very curious. This old nose here, this big nose, can detect smelly fish. When I saw energy figure of 903 at 200 yards and then 781 at 200 yards for the 30-30, I said, there's something really, really stinky here. That's not right. Somebody's really trying to set up a smoke and mirror situation here. I don't know what figures they're using, because I went right to Winchester's own ballistic calculator and I pulled down their ammunition. 150 grain 30-30 bullet delivers an energy of 989 foot-pounds at 200 yards, not 781. That's over 200 foot-pounds more than 781. So I don't know who's fudging with the figures here, but that's not a deer round. And then if you go to the 170 grain bullet, which is my particular preference for the 30-30, the 170 grain bullet is 955 foot-pounds. Again, a lot more than 781. And both of those are categorically more than 903 foot-pounds that they give for the 350 Legend. I don't like it, Winchester, when you pull that crap. That's deceptive. I love Winchester products, and I recommend Winchester products. I recommend their ammunition. I recommend everything about them. But this is BS. This is a bunch of BS. And you're shading figures here. You're cherry picking numbers. You don't list what that particular bullet weight is for the 30-30, and that's absolutely bogus, because again, 989 and 955 is not 781. That's a bald-faced lie. Less recoil. Well, yeah, that's its advantage. It has a lot less recoil than the 450 Bushmaster. The 450 Bushmaster is up in close to 23 foot-pounds of free recoil, and the 350 Legend is 852. Well, that's to be expected, because the 350 Legend is based upon the 223 cartridge, which is roughly around 25-27 grains of powder. And the 30-30 Winchester has got, you're talking 10 grains more powder, and that delivers 9.64 foot-pounds of recoil. I don't know what cartridge they pulled that off of, because again, I don't know. They lied about which they weren't upfront about what bullet weight they used for the energy comparison. So I'm not sure what they're doing with the recoil comparison. But even if it's the pound less that they're talking 1 1/10 pound less recoil. Well, you're still talking. It's not a lot. It's neither one is a lot of recoil. So I think that's a moot point, as they say in law. Here's where things I think get a little bit fishy, really bad. They have the 350 Legend, with a sectional density. The sectional density of the 350 Legend is it's piddling. My wife would say piddling. It's 168. Sectional density of 168. Now, if you watched my recent video on sectional density, classic deer bullets, classic hunting bullets should all be around in the 240s, .240 and above. That's been standard fare for good penetration on deer-sized game, and that would include hogs and all that stuff. You know, tissue is bone. You know, bone and tissue is bone and tissue, and especially with hogs, you got that armor plate that you're dealing with that sometimes can be a little bit difficult to get through. But you're talking about here comparisons that absolutely don't make sense. First of all, they didn't compare it. All of a sudden now, in the other two charts, they cited the. This is why I don't like when somebody, you know, rigs the deck. Under more energy, they listed the 30-30, and they fudged the numbers. Under less recoil, whether the numbers were fudged or not, they listed the 30-30. Suddenly now, the 30-30 is not in the penetration comparison. Well, I wonder why that is, because they list the 350 Legend as having 11.7 inches of penetration at 200 yards. The 243 Winchester they list as having only 9.5 inches at penetration at 200 yards. Well, just as they fudged the figures with the 30-30's, you know, remaining energy, I'm sorry, but penetration of 100 grain or a 95 grain 243 bullet at 200 yards is going to be substantially more than the penetration of a short, squat, fat little bullet that's 357 in diameter. Is going to be a lot more than that. And this is, again, we're rigging the deck. So I don't want to be a spoil sport, and I don't want to rain on anybody's parade here, because I do think that the 350 Legend has got an incredibly good market. I think that there's a reason that we should have that particular round on the scene. I think it's just what we need for, you know, for youths and for women and for you know, people who just simply don't like to have a lot of recoil. You know, you're only talking 8 foot-pounds of recoil, but basically you're talking a very, very moderate amount of recoil, which virtually anybody can handle. So that's the category that it's in. What I don't want to see people do is rush to the fountain thinking that it's something that it's not, based on this BS. It's not the perpetual motion engine that everybody was seeking in the 1800s that never stops running. It's not the most powerful cartridge in the world. It's a 223 cartridge with a small case, and it's going to have a straight wall with a short, fat, stubby little bullet on it that has no sectional density. You can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear, as my grandmother said. It ain't gonna happen. So it's, you know, for all the years that the 30-30 took, you know, basically took a lot of beating, because the 30-30 was claimed to be a substandard, and the 32 special as well. You know, you're talking about 150 grain bullet. Let's see if I can. Now, granted, this is a pointed bullet, so it's, you know, the profile of a 30-30 bullet is a little different. But this is right here. This is a 147 grain 9mm bullet. 47 grain 9mm bullet isn't going to look a lot different than the 357 diameter bullet. 150 grains, three grains different. This is a 150 grain 30 caliber bullet with a much higher sectional density. This is a 170 grain 32 special bullet with you know, again, a lot more sectional density, tremendous amount more sectional density, 170 grain. The 170 grain 30 caliber bullet is longer than this one. It stands higher, even with the flattened point that's necessary for 30-30. So, again, I reiterate, the 350 Legend is going to be a very good round for those people who need to have a straight wall cartridge that complies with local regulations, local hunting laws, for those situations. It's not a substantial deer cartridge. Sorry, it's not a 200 deer. You can't take paper and turn it into a bullet. It's not a 200-yard deer cartridge. It's a very good deer cartridge for shotgun ranges out to 100, 125, 150 yards. I would certainly not be taking shots at 200 yards on deer with a cartridge which is fading with a short, fat, squat bullet, which is not going to be able to penetrate enough to get through and through on a deer. The things that I have read so far about it indicate just that. Those who have, the writers who have taken it out afield, and they didn't say how far off the deer were when they shot it and all that. I suspect, you know, we're talking white-tailed deer. White-tailed deer are typically shot at 25, 30, 40 yards and things like that. On occasion, you'll get a potato field shot or something, but you're not talking long range with most white-tailed shots. And you know, the results that they describe is that the bullet got into the boiler room and it didn't come out the other side. Well, that's the ideal, is to get through. Bullets don't anchor game. They have to destroy lung tissue in order to be able to put them down. Now, a short, fat bullet getting in there and destroying lung tissue, if that's what it does, then that's what it does. But it's not substantial. You're still basically taking shots at it with something which is on the realm. It's basically on the idea of a slightly more powerful round than the 357 Maximum used to be. And the 357 Maximum is still in that same category. It's still a straight wall cartridge, which when it's used in a contender pistol that can handle the pressures, you know, the velocities are, you know, in a rifle barrel, the velocity would be very, very similar to that with a similar bullet. So that's the thing you're talking. You're not talking about extreme here. You're talking about an adequate cartridge for deer. I'm a little bit. I don't want to see. I think it's probably going to be very popular among the AR crowd. I think it's probably going to catch fire in that area. I'm not a fan, to be honest with you. You know, I hunt. I like to carry a gun which is comfortable to carry. You know, the sling's comfortably across my elbow when I'm hunting and walking through the woods. And I've always found an AR to be a little bit clumsy when it comes to walking around with the thing. Even when I was in Vietnam, it's just, you know, they don't point naturally and things like that with a pistol grip. So, you know, they have a market for that too. There are people who like to have that. They like to have that particular style rifle to go deer hunting with and things. But I think if you're going to be deer hunting in states which don't require a straight wall cartridge, that there are better cartridges in your AR-15 than this one that'll do a better job. And don't get caught up with all the ballyhoo. Don't get taken in by a bunch of fabrications, because it can only be what it is. So thanks for watching. I recommend that you take a very close look at the round if you need it. Don't place it on a pedestal, and be careful of those who do attempt to place it on a pedestal, because there's you know, it hasn't become a legend yet. You know, that's a name which I think that to become a legend before it's even out on the market, that's you know, again, you know, I think a bunch of advertising executives did a pretty good job of you know, setting up some smoke and mirrors. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and God bless.